How to save money on coffee is the topic of today's Rambling Life Coach Radio Show. I'm your host, Armand Dupuy, and in this show, we're going to talk about how to save up to 33% and more on your coffee. So as always, eliminate all distractions, get into a comfortable position, sit back and relax to focus on the little tricks I'm going to give you on how to save money on coffee. Now before I begin, remember to subscribe, ring the bell to turn on your notifications, because you're not going to want to miss any of my shows on saving money on food or on surviving this pandemic. As always, leave your comments and questions in the comment sections below, because a lot of my shows will be based on your questions. So let's get started. Now, in a moment, I'm going to share my discovery on how to save up to 33% on your coffee, but first, I've got some bonus saving tips on coffee. First of all, make your own for less than 10% of buying it in your local donut shop or coffee shop. And that's assuming the regular coffee and not the fancy ones, the lattes and so on. Now, for making coffee at home, stay away from those little cup things, like whatever they call them. There's different brands out there. I mean, the other day, my brother told me about an experience he had, and this is interesting. Now, he's in the supermarket, and from the same brand of coffee, and the ones in those little cups, which was not organic, just regular coffee, during a 50% off sale, was still more expensive than the organic ground coffee by the bag at the regular price. So at the normal prices, the crap coffee in the cups is more than double the price than by the bag, and organic at that. In other words, you can buy, instead of buying the non-organic that has all the chemicals in it, you can buy organic, no chemicals, tastes better, for less than half the price of those little cups. So buying your ground coffee by the bag is cheaper if you're buying organic compared to non-organic, which was at least twice the price in the cups. Now, of course, it's going to vary from brand to brand and store to store in different locations and so on. Now, I haven't talked about the waste in these methods, but I'll come to that in a moment. Next is coffee makers. The type where you pour in your pot of water, you put your coffee into the filter, insert it into the little cup thing there, and you put it in the maker, and your water drips to the coffee into the pot below. Now, both the cups and the drip method is very inefficient. Common sense, because the coffee is only dripping through it once. Think about it. Personally, I make what you would call campfire coffee. I warm up my pot, dump in my coffee grounds, and pour in the hot water. I'll leave it for about 3 minutes, give it a good stir, and leave it for another 3 minutes to settle down till the grounds are at the bottom. Then I pour it into my cup through a fine kitchen strainer. Simple, 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 Now, you can get a bit fancier by using what I think they call that a coffee press. I have one, but I never use it. And use it the same way as campfire coffee. But it has a special lid with a strainer, and when your coffee is ready, you just, push the plunger down, and the strainer keeps all your grounds at the bottom rather than in your coffee cup. Now, I'm sure you're all familiar with that one. Now, either way, campfire coffee or using this coffee press thing, whatever, that's the cheapest way to get a good cup of coffee. And now let's get to that 33% savings. Let me tell you a story. Now, here's how I used to make my coffee. In the morning, I'd get up and I'd, put in, warm up my coffee pot, put in a bit of hot water, boiling water in it, and dump in my scoops and fill up to the level that I wanted in my coffee pot. 2 scoops would give me 2 cups, just 8 ounces each, no problem. Okay, so that's like my morning coffee, and one big coffee in the morning. Then, usually sometimes around midday, I might make another pot. And then another pot, maybe mid-afternoon, mid to late afternoon. And that was my normal coffee drinking. This is the way that I did it every time. Now, let me digress for a moment And you'll see how it all fits together, okay? This is interesting. Now, I had heard for years, for example, that, I just used to, rinse my coffee pot and so on, rinse it out, dump the grounds down the drain, and so on, fresh coffee, second time, third time. That's how I used to make it. So I'm using 2 scoops each time. I'm using 6 scoops for the day, right? Now, but I had heard that coffee grounds were good for the garden. I'd heard that for years in organic gardening magazines and so on and so forth, but I didn't even know why. Well, okay, it's organic matter, so it's going to put nourishment in the ground, and of course, that's what I thought. And then with this pandemic, I decided to revamp some old garden beds and put a few things in this year. I hadn't done that for a long time. So I started doing a lot more research. I'm a good gardener to begin with, but I started doing some more research on YouTube and so on. And I found out that the reason coffee grounds were so good for the garden is they were high in nitrogen. Okay? Stay with me here. This is interesting. High in nitrogen. So I thought, well, okay. And I've got a few plants growing in my windows and so on throughout the winter. So I started to say, okay, I'm going to salvage these coffee grounds. Well, they're in my coffee pot, right? So how do you get it out, right? It's kind of awkward. So I had an idea. I took a little funnel and stuck in, I had a box of old coffee filters, stuck one in there, and stuck that into an empty plastic bottle. So what I did is then I would take and just put a little bit of water in my coffee and just, enough to rinse it out and dump it out. I'd do that 2 or 3 times to get it cleaned out. Then I'd rinse it out properly. And now, so the coffee, I'm salvaging those coffee grounds, and the water that I use for rinsing is going into a plastic container, so no problems. Well, so this went on for some time, and I'm accumulating this. Now, I wanted to make sure that it worked and that it was just not the coffee ground. I thought, hey, if it's in the coffee grounds, there's also going to be some nitrogen in the liquid, It's already been used as coffee, however, but because I'm using so little rinse water, it's going to be still very strong. So I would take this container, and it would roughly 1.5 pounds. It's an empty peanut container, plastic that I bought peanuts in, and it holds about 1.5 pounds of peanuts, already shelled and all that. So it gives you an idea of the size of it. And once that was full, what I would do is I would take this bottle of drain water, pour it into a 2-gallon watering can, fill it up with water, and start to water my plants, My goodness, the growth went nuts, okay? So there's still stuff there. Okay, so that was the situation, so now I'm saving my coffee grounds. Now, one day I saw a headline about reusing coffee grounds, and I thought, well, that doesn't make any sense, It's already been made coffee, but it'd be weak, crappy coffee. I mean, won't they? It'd be yuck, right? And then I happened to glance at the rinse water from saving the grounds, and it looked like coffee. Okay? I mean, really, I had an idea. So the next morning, I made my coffee in the morning, as per usual, 2 scoops. But instead of starting fresh with my second pot of the day, rinsing it out and dumping the grounds and salvaging them and so on, I left the coffee grounds in and added only 1 scoop for the same 2 cups of water. Guess what? Great coffee! So there was still enough good coffee left in the 2 that by adding just 1 more. So one thing, by the way, that I need to tell you, when I did it this way, in hindsight, I started to, instead of leaving it for 3 minutes, kind of steeping, after I poured my water into the pot, I leave it for 5 minutes, and then I would stir it, leave it for another 5 minutes, and give it a chance to extract as much as possible. So, and in the afternoon, I made another pot, same thing. The grounds from the first pot and that extra scoop from the second pot were still there. Added 1 more scoop, and away we went. And again, great coffee. So I went from 2 scoops 3 times a day, a total of 6 scoops, to only 4 for the same 6 cups of coffee, a saving of 33%, 1/3 exactly. Now, I drink my coffee black with no sweetener, just coffee. And so I found the taste great. This is good. Now, of course, if you put other things into your coffee, cream, sugar, etc., chances are that you'll never notice any kind of difference on your palate in drinking a cup of coffee. So you haven't changed your lifestyle, but you've just saved yourself a whole pile of money. More importantly, if you've got coffee now, whether you grind it yourself from the coffee beans and so on, you can stock up on that. Because the beans, if you have a coffee grinder, will last, and stay fresh for a long period of time, relatively speaking. Now, I'm also going to do a show on food security during this pandemic. And that might wind up being a whole series because I'll be sharing secrets with you that nobody else is talking about. But that's to your advantage. So be sure to subscribe and ring the bell to turn on your notifications. And in the meantime, thank you for supporting my channel with your donations to keep this channel independent and commercial free. And you'll find the donation link in the text below. And that's the whole thing. If we can keep this channel, commercial free, you can focus on a show and focus on what's going on without distractions. And click on the card above to listen to the next show, which I recommend. Or click on the card below to listen to one which YouTube selects for you. And you'll certainly want to listen to my shows on consciousness because that is critical for survival in this pandemic. And invest some time to evolve your being so that you can have a great life. And I'll do my best to help you to achieve that. Armand Dupuy, signing off.